All right, today is March 22nd, 2013. It is 11:30 a.m. and that was the bell for the 11:30 Express. But anyway, I wanted to do this little podcast really quick to talk about the fall of the Roman Empire. If you're listening right now, you are listening to a podcast. Also, I'm using a new program to hopefully have the visual for you as well, so you have it either both ways. First thing I want to talk about, or I didn't get a chance to talk about in class, was the fall of the Roman Empire. So I figured I would just use this as a pilot, and hopefully, if it goes well, we'll work on it again in the future. But I want to talk about the end of the Roman Empire, the fall, and I got a PowerPoint up. If you can watch this, like I said, visually. But it's reasons for the Romans' demise. So the fall of the Roman Empire. But first, let's review. I want to talk about some different accomplishments of the Romans, then that lead directly to the decline. But some accomplishments I just kind of want to go over with you is, like I said, Rome was at its peak was 2 million square miles. It went from the British Isles, North Africa, to Yemen, Jordan in the east, and also southern Gaul, which is France today, and the Iberian Peninsula, which is Spain and Portugal. And that's how far the Roman Empire it conquered actually all the Mediterranean. The next is the roads. The Romans had a road system, and the reason why this was built, like I said, this is a review, so I'm going to go over this hopefully very quickly. It went over the, actually all over the empire, and you could actually take, like I said, like paved roads, and it made travel very, very quick. So that's one of the things and also they developed a mail system, and they could react quickly to any kind of uprisings or anything like that. The next thing is the mail system. Mail system was the fastest mail system up until the invention of the railroad. The next was the architecture, Roman Colosseum, the Pantheon, which was the largest curved ceiling, and it was actually geometrically shaped where it would highlight all the gods of the empire. The next one accomplishment was Latin. Latin is responsible for a couple different languages, Spanish, French. Then you still have, the New Age Latin and also English. The next is the idea of the government. The idea of being a citizen and what good citizens should do, and they should vote, they should participate, they should pay taxes, and all those things, voting, all those different things came from the Romans and actually the Greeks as well, but the Romans had kind of spiffed it up a little bit, and then they kind of went back to a dictatorship when Julius Caesar and Octavian, which is Augustus, came along. Now, with all those accomplishments, they did have flaws. So first, if you look at the reasons of the fall, it pretty much started out, and I have if you can see this, you have like a bubble map, and reasons for the fall. You have most of your Roman population was poor. A third of your population, of the 2 million square miles, those people were slaves. So it was real easy to have an uprising in Rome. Next was military problems. After the Emperor Hadrian had pretty much taken power, you had a lot of different people that were kind of sectioning off parts of the army, and they were some of the soldiers were swearing their allegiance to these guys, and they became kind of like what you want to call coups d'etat or coup, and they would try to fight against or march against Rome. Inflation was another thing. What inflation is when the overall prices of things rise to such a point that no one can afford them. Next is agricultural decline. You had a lot of different areas that were not able to sustain, adequate farming. So therefore, a lot of the areas and the people that were starving, and that led to political corruption because people could sell their seats in office and different things like that. So it was kind of went to the highest bidder type deal. And then you had decline in morals and values. All right. So later, a lot of people have this or say this, but basically talk about a lot of different things that kind of goes to the area. But anyway, so you had crowds and violence in the streets, you had wasted money, and then you had the gladiatorial combats itself, and that led to a lot of bloodshed. Agricultural decline was pretty much talking about high taxes because people were just leaving farms. They were just in general. Farmland was destroyed by fighting and warfare, and people could not, sell their crops or anything like that, which led to inflation. So you had cheap labor, discouraged technology improvements. So because people would come in and work for less, nobody had a need to make any kind of technological improvements. And then overworked soil was kind of like desertification. Inflation, it was like the rise in taxes because you had to pay these soldiers. If you didn't pay these soldiers wouldn't fight, which led to a really bad thing. All right. And they stopped conquering lands. The Emperor Hadrian, he actually said, we're going to build permanent frontiers. You had Petra in the east, and then you had Hadrian's Wall that was built by Hadrian in the 2nd century AD, and it was 73 miles. And what it was, the Roman army were kind of upset because they pretty much turned into construction workers, and they weren't really happy about that. And the coins became less valuable because there was so much in population, or in circulation, excuse me. And the merchants, they needed their money, so they'd raise prices, which led to inflation. And people just stopped using coins altogether. They just started going back to the oldest system, oldest economic system, which is bartering. Military spending, maintaining an army to defend 2 million square miles can get pretty pricey. Romans, they just it was just lackadaisical. The morale of all the Roman soldiers, the legionnaires, became very low. So this when they started kind of rebelling themselves. Now, the bad thing is when you have citizens that are defenseless pretty much, and when you have these trained killers sitting around with all these weapons, that's not going to equal a bad thing. I mean, that's not going to be a very good thing. So therefore, you had these guys sitting around. Now, let's keep going and try to make this thing short. Had political corruption. You had a lot of these people that were, just like I said, just selling the throne. And then the Roman poor. The Roman poor, like I said, that was most of Rome in the streets. It was a lot of pestilence. It was dirty. It was filthy. And these people were, diseases and all this kind of stuff. And it just kind of killed out the population. And then that led to the abandonment of the farms. Now, people, there's a lot of economists, and they say, hey, give a present day example of the fall of Rome. A lot of people say the United States. People, talk about the United States, because if you think about it, in Rome at this time, a lot of the barbarians, the people that lived outside of Rome looked really attractive, and that's kind of how it is today. People, try to come to the United States to actually have a better life. So, but, people try to say, hey, the United States is the modern day Rome because you have decline in moral values, political corruption, agriculture decline, inflation, unemployment, military spending. Like I said, that's just part of this presentation. That's not a personal opinion of mine. It's just throwing some examples out there. People compare it back and forth. You can defend both sides of this. So I kind of see both sides where that would possibly be correct. But anyway, so what we're going to do is I'm going to actually talk about, and that's the end of the slideshow, but I will continue to talk about some things. The barbarians actually invaded Rome, but a lot of people say that Rome had been pretty much, slicing through barbarian kingdoms and villages for hundreds of years. So how could the barbarians, who are not even band together as one army, infiltrate Rome? Well, one of them is, you really can't get into a fort unless you're invited in. Like I said, with all these people, 1/3 of the population were slaves. Slaves are kind of thinking, what's the quickest way out? Hey, how you doing, barbarians? Don't go by. Why don't you come on in here? Take us over. So it's kind of like the barbarians were invited in as guests and said, hey, if you want to take us over, if you want part of the empire, that's fine. So the Roman Empire pretty much declined and fell and like I said, people have a couple different years, give or take, but the 476 AD was the actual fall of Rome, and that which led to the Middle Ages. Now, a lot of people don't connect the Middle Ages to Rome, but there was a lot of things that were taken out of Rome and actually implemented to the Middle Ages, and that's going to be our next venture. So, you know, if you have any questions, you can for my students, you can hit me on Edmodo, ask me any questions, and that's pretty much it. So like I said, this will be uploaded as a podcast, and also this is going to be uploaded so you can see the actual short PowerPoint slide. Like I said, if you have any questions, please let me know. All right. Thank you very much.